Amrut, can you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
So are you practice?
Hello.
Yeah. Are you practicing?
Yeah, sir.
So we were talking about immutable versus fundamental data types. So what are the fundamental data types? Int, float, complex, bool, str. Int, float, complex, bool, str. What is immutability? What is mutable? What is immutable?
Mutable means change, sir. Change the position or change the place.
It is not changing place actually. What is that? In case of
O-
immutable, what we
Okay.
say immutable, we can able to, in case of
Modify.
immutable, what is the immutable means? We
Not
cannot
modify.
able to change the object content. We cannot able to change the object content. We cannot able to change the object content. That is what we are calling immutability. We cannot able to change the object content. Immutable object. We cannot able to change the object content. That is what we are calling immutable. So what is mutable? What is mutable? We can able to change the content of the object. We can able to change the content of the object. In case of immutable object, in case of immutable object, if I try to change the content of the object, in case of immutable object, if I try to change the content, if I try to change the content, it is going to create a new object with those changes. It is going to create a new object with those changes. In case of immutable object, in case of immutable object, if I try if I try to make the change to that immutable object, the resulting will be a new object. With those changes, a new object will be created. That is what we are calling immutable object. This non-changeable behavior, we are calling it as immutability. In Python, if new object is required, in Python, if a new object is required, then Python virtual machine won't create a new object immediately. In Python, if new object is required, Python virtual machine won't create new object immediately. First, it is going to check if there is any object available with the required content or not. First, it is going to check in the memory if any object is available with the required content or not. If that object is there, if that object is there with the required content, if that object is there with the required content, the same object will be reused. If the object is there with the required content, the same object will be reused. If that object is not there with the required content, if that object is not available with the required content, then only it is going to create a new object. Then only it is going to create a new object. So the advantages of this approach, what is the advantage of this approach? Memory utilization. Every time you don't have to create the new object. Whichever the object is already there with the required content, that object only you can able to use. And performance wise, better. Performance will be improved. For example, x is equal to 10, y is equal to 10, z is equal to 10. Now, if I say this line, this is the object creation only. This is the object creation only. In Python, this is the object creation only. How it is? Here, one object got created. One object got created. What is that object? Int object got created. So this is x, this is y, this is z. Only one object got created. One object got created. Here 10, right? It is not 100, it is 10. 10. We have created x variable is equal to 10. This means object only, object creation only. This is the reference variable now. X is pointing to one object with the content 10. Y is y reference variable is pointing to one object with the content 10. Z is pointing to one object with the content 10. Only one object got created. Only one object got created. Three references we have. Three reference x, y, z. X, Y, Z. Three references we have. One object got created. Three reference. Now, for every object there will be a ID. For every object there will be a ID. Unique identifier. It is not identifier. It is like a ID. ID. It is ID. We can able to identify it uniquely. There won't be any duplicate. Means for every object one ID will be generated. For example, now we are going to find out the ID of x. This is the ID of x. Let us find out ID of y. Same ID we are getting. ID of z. Same ID we are getting. Only one object got created. Only one object got created. ID of x, ID of y, ID of z. All these references are pointing to the same object. All these references are pointing to the same object. All these references are pointing to the same object. Only one object got created. Object reusability. Object reusability improves the performance. Object reusability improves the performance. Observe this one. If you want to clear the screen, there is a command. If you want to clear the screen, there is a command that you can use. Straight away we cannot able to clear this. Okay, straight away there is no such thing as like a CLS, something like that. Okay, we need to import something first. We need to import some package, then only we can able to clear the screen. Clearing IDE, DLE in Python. So there is a shortcut way. What is that? Fine. Observe here. X is equal to 10. There is another better approach. I'll tell you that. How to clear the screen? There is a better approach. See, if you are working in command prompt, no. If you are working in command prompt, for example, like this, we have to type this. Here also CLS won't work. So you need to type exit, then it will come. Then once again you need to type this Python. So x is equal to 10, y is equal to 10, z is equal to 10. That is what we have done now. So all these references are pointing to the same object. All these references are pointing to the same object. Now let's say it's not clear. A is equal to 10. Now if you say A is equal to 20, earlier A was pointing to the object 10. Earlier A was pointing to object 10. This is the object. Earlier A was pointing to the object 10. Now what I said, A is equal to 20. A is equal to 20. Now what happens? A new object will be created with the content 20. Earlier A was pointing to 10. Earlier, A was pointing to 10. Now that reference will be removed. Now A will be pointing to this object. Now this object becomes abandoned. That object becomes abandoned. Abandoned in the sense, one object without any reference. One object without any reference. Even a single reference it doesn't have. If this object doesn't have any reference, then this object is going to remove from the memory. Then this object is going to be removed from the memory. That means how it is going to remove from the memory. There is a concept called garbage collection. From the garbage collector, from the garbage collector, this object is going to be removed from the memory. There is no use of this object. This object will be removed from the memory. Now you can able to see here, let's say initially what you will do is A is equal to 10. Find out the ID of A. You are getting this. Now A is equal to 20. Now find out the ID of A. You'll get the different. You are getting different. Earlier it was pointing to this object. This is the ID of that object. This is the ID of that object. Later on, you are assigning a different object. Later on, you are assigning to a different object. The ID of this object is this one. Now, what is the problem by using this approach? For example, we have seen in the previous example, what is that? Three references, X, Y, Z are pointing to the same object. So what is the problem in this approach? Several references are pointing to the same object. Several references are pointing to the same object. By using one objective reference, we can able to change the content of the object by using any one reference. By using any one reference, we can able to change the content of that object. We can able to change the content of that object. Now what happens? The remaining references will be affected. The remaining references will be affected. How is that? For example, here one object is there. Three references are pointing. X, Y, Z. X is there, Y is there, Z is there. Three references pointing to the same object. By using any one reference, you can able to make the changes to this object. Now, by using X reference, I'm changing the content. Let's say here 20. Now, other two got affected. For example, here, let's say X is equal to 10, Y is equal to 10, Z is equal to 10. By using X reference, what I'm going to do, 20. Now try to print Y. Pakka you'll get what? Observe carefully. Earlier x was pointing to this. Earlier x was pointing to this. X was pointing to 10. Now it is pointing to, carefully observe. All the fundamental data types are immutable. Immutable. All the fundamental data types are immutable. That means we cannot able to make a change to this existing object. We cannot able to make a change to this existing object. Entirely a new object will be created. If you try to change, 10 is there. If you try to change this, what happens? Entirely a new object will be created. Earlier x was pointing to 10. Now if you say 20, if you say 20, you say 20, what happens? This reference will be removed. Then now x will be pointing to this one. So that is what? Immutability. A new object will be created. A new object will be created. Now here, what happens? In this case, problem in this approach, several references are pointing to the same object. By using one reference, if we are allowed to change the content in the existing object, by using one reference, by using one reference, if we are allowed to change the content of this object, then the remaining references will be affected. Remaining references will be affected. That is why to prevent this, we are using the immutability. Immutability concept is required. So here, by using any reference, if I make a change to this object, by using any one reference, if I make a change to this object, so many references are there. Assume that another reference, another reference, another reference, another reference. By using any one reference, if I change the object content, means if I change this object content, by using any one reference, if I change the object content, what happens? Remaining, remaining all the references, remaining all the references will be affected. Remaining all the references, A, B, C, D, all the references will be affected. So that is why we need the immutability. Means we cannot able to change the content of that object. If you are trying to make a change the content of that object, entirely a new object will be created. Entirely resulting is a new object. A new object will be created. So x is equal to, sorry, let's say y is equal to 10, p is equal to 10. Now to find out whether two references are pointing to the same object or not, a is b. True, you will get. Otherwise, b is a. Is. That means, what that means? A and B. A is same as B or not. B is same as A or not. That means whether A is pointing to the same object, that is referred by B reference. B reference is pointing to the same object, that is referred by A or not. Whether A is pointing to the same object, that is referred by B reference or not. Whether B reference is pointing to the same object, that is referred, means that is referred by A reference. Whether two whether these two references are pointing to the same object or not. These two reference, A is B or B is A. Whether these two references are pointing to the same object or different object. Let's say here A is equal to and A is equal to, sorry, B is equal to 20. Now whether A is B, false you are getting, B is A, false you are getting, false you will be getting. Different object. Now one more um, tricky concept is there. What is that? Is equal to 257. Y is equal to 257. This is y. You'll get false. Why you are getting false? Same object, no, but why you are getting false? See, reusing of the same object is available from 0 to 256 only.
Okay.
Reusing the same object is available from 0 to 256 only, not after that. We are using 257. That is not available.
Why one?
Reusing of, sorry,
Why, sir? Only 256?
see, actually what happens, while while Python virtual machine is starting, it is going to create by default 256 objects, 0 to 256. If it is going to create thousands of objects, memory will be filled. Memory will be filled. Performance will be low. While creating the object, by default, it is going to create 256. Okay, the same
Okay.
object will be reused. Okay, means up from 0 to 256, any object can be reused. That much amount of object only it is going to create. While the Python virtual machine is starting, it is going to create 0 to 256 objects. If it is going to create 1 lakh of object, assume,
Okay.
Python virtual machine, it is not going to start in 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It is going to start in half an hour or 1 hour. So whichever it is mainly required, whichever mainly required, how much amount mainly required, that much amount it is going to create initially, 256 objects. That is why here we are getting false. Reusing the same object is available from 0 to 256 only. Now, if you say, observe carefully, A is equal to 10.0, B is equal to 20.0. A is B, false you'll get, sorry, carefully observe, A is equal to 10.0, E is equal to 10.0. A is false you are going to get. Why? Why you are getting false? Reusability of objects in case of float is not available. Reusability of object in case of float is not available. Find out the ID. ID of A will get different. ID of B get different. Reusability of objects in case of float is not available. Reusability of the same object only possible in case of int, in case of boolean, in case of str. Why? Because these three data types only we are going to use frequently. In case of int, by default, it is going to create the Python virtual machine is going to create from 0 to 256 objects in case of int. In case of bool, we have only two, either it can be true or it can be false. In case of str, the most frequently used data type is str, string type. For the name purpose you require, for the address purpose you require a string type. The most commonly used data type is string type. Now, reusability of the same object is not possible in case of float and in case of complex. Reusability of the same object is not possible in case of float, in case of complex. At the time of Python interpreter is starting, at the time of Python interpreter is starting, from 0 to 256 integer objects will be created. From 0 to 256 integer objects will be created. Then you might ask why it is not going to create the um, why it is not going to create the objects for float. See, for the floating point we have so many possibilities. 0.0 we have, 0.01 we have, 0.11 we have, 0.0001 we have. So if you are taking like that, we get thousands of possibilities. For all those thousands of possibilities, Python interpreter cannot able to create the object. So for in case of integer, it is going to create from 0 to 256 objects. Reusable, reusability of the same object, reusability of the same object possible in case of integer from ranging from 0 to 256. See, from 0 to 1 itself we have so many values in case of float. 0.1 we have, 0.01 we have, 0.11 we have. So possibilities more. That is why it is not going to create the objects for float initially. In case of complex, reusability is not possible because in the 0 and 1 we have so many values. For example, see, complex values can also contain the values like this: 0.0 plus 0.0 plus 0.2j, 0.1 plus 0.3j. See here, possibilities, so many possibilities. So that is why it is not going to create it is not going to create the object. That means reusability. Reusability is not possible in case of complex. Reusability is not possible in case of float. Reusability is not possible in case of complex. Python interpreter cannot able to create these many objects in the beginning only. Now we'll come to bytes data type. Bytes. Bytes data type. Bytes data type. Bytes also is a class. Everything in Python is a class. 100% object oriented programming. Now what is bytes? Bytes data type. Bytes data type represents a group of byte numbers, just like an array. Just like an array. Bytes data type represents a group of byte numbers, just like an array. Now, for example, x is equal to 10, comma 20, comma 30, comma 40. I'm going to store this inside bytes x. Now find out the type of x. Getting different. Here, not x. We should find out the b. Initially, what we have done is equal to, this will come to know what is list, that you will come to know later. 30, 40 is there. Yeah. Now bytes, we are supplying x. If you try to find out the type of b, you will get bytes. Bytes data type represents a group of byte numbers. It is just like an array. Int a of 0, and you'll get int a of a of 2. Right away you can able to. This one is required when you are creating a new file here like this. This one is required. Print is required. So if you are using the separative file, okay, if you are using the separative file, if you are creating a new file, okay, then this print is useful. I'll show you that how. For example, here new file, okay, x is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30 comma 40. So next what you are going to do is b is equal to bytes. You are supplying that list. You come to know what is that list. Now straight away say p of 0. You won't get the value. Run module. Nothing you are getting. You are getting nothing. So that is why. So that is why what we are going to do here. Use the print. Use the print. Print p of 0. Now you'll get 10. Now you will get the 10. But here in the ideally straight away you can able to print. No issues. The ideally that is possible. The ideally straight away you can able to print. No issues. Now we know how this array works. X of sorry p of minus 1. P of minus 1 will be 40. See, unidirectional. Positive direction also possible, negative direction also possible. Positive direction starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. Negative direction starting from minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. Now if you say minus 1, you'll get 40. If you say minus 4, you'll get 10. Both unidirectional. Positive direction also possible, negative direction also possible. Now to print all the values that is inside this, bytes array. Simply write for I in B. For I in B, print I. Simple for loop. This is the variable I. For loop I. Every time from the bytes array, every time from the bytes array, one element it is going to return to I. That is only we are printing by using print. Every time till the end of the array, till the end of this bytes, till the end of this bytes array, every time each time it is going to return one value. Initially 10, later on 20, then 30, afterwards 40. Each time it is going to print. 10 will be supplied to I, that I is printing, 10 is printed. 20 is supplied to I, that 20 is printed. 30 is supplied to I, that 30 is printed. 40 is supplied to I, that 40 is printed. See, what are all the conclusions? What are all the conclusions? The only allowed values for byte data type. Just a minute. So here also, conclusion one. What is that? The only allowed values for byte data type 0 to 256. Now after that, if you are trying to provide any other values, then you will get value error. For example, here for the bytes, here we have supplied this much. Okay, let's say this much 400. Then e is equal to bytes of x. Value error, you are getting value error. Bytes must be in the range of 0 to 256. Bytes must be in the range of 0 to 256. From 0 to 256 only you can able to supply the values for bytes type. Now once we create the bytes data type value, we cannot able to change its values. We cannot able to change its values. Otherwise you'll get type error. Otherwise you'll get type error. For example, here b of 2. Here 0 is there, 1 is there, 2 is there. Earlier it was 30. Now I'm trying to make it as something like 35. Type error you are getting. Bytes object does not support item assignment. Bytes object does not support item assignment. So two conclusions are here. Two conclusions. The only allowed values for byte data type is 0 to 256 by mistake. If you are trying to provide any other values, then you will get value error. Conclusion 2. Once we create bytes data type value, once we create bytes data type value, we cannot change its values. If you are trying to change its values, you'll get a type error. You'll get a type error. Now we'll come to byte array data type. Byte array. Byte array is exactly same as bytes data type, except byte array elements can be modified. See here you can able to we have already seen this type of b bytes. Now this is equal to n 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. This much. Now b is equal to byte array. Byte array. Byte array sum supply. Try to find out the type of b byte array will get. As byte array. Try to print the values for I in b. Print I. Simple. You'll get all the elements. Byte array is exactly same as bytes data type, except except byte array elements can be modified. Byte array elements can be modified. For example, here b of 0. B of 0. Earlier it was 10. Now if I make it as 100, No issues at all. Try to print. For I in E, print. Earlier it was 10, now it is 100. Now, let's say if you are trying to insert 1000, it is not possible. Value I will get. Byte must be in the range of 0 to 256. This byte array is exactly same as byte, but what is the change here? You can able to modify the content. You can able to you can able to modify the elements of byte array. You can able to modify the elements of byte array, but that is not possible in case of byte. So next we have list data type. Okay. Next we have list data type. So that one will continue tomorrow. So have you gone through that material what I have sent?
Yeah, sir.
How is it?
Excellent, sir. Good, sir.
Yeah, actually that is a simple kind of simple book actually. We can able to understand very easily.
Yeah.
If any resources are there, something like that, I will send. And what else?
Sir, where can you find this recorded video, sir? If you want.
Yeah,
If you want.
recorded videos I'll be sending. Okay, recorded video I'll be sending. Do one thing. Your email IDs. Give me your email IDs. You have
Okay.
like I'll share the videos.
Okay, sir. In group, you have to share our email ID, sir.
So 26. See, I'll be also giving you some assignments. Okay, you should do the assignments.
Okay, sir.
Submit the assignments before the class.
Okay, sir.
Can you do it?
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Insert one left. Okay, type your email address in the chat window. Please type your email address in the chat window. Satish, your email address. Okay, guys, I'll be sharing these videos. It takes some time to process. After process is finished, I'll share this video. We'll continue tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Fine.
Fine, sir. Fine. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Good night.
Good night. Good night, sir. Good night. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡತ್ತೀವ ಆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡತ್ತಿ ಏನ ತಡಿ 1 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್